Namaste and good morning, everyone. Let's start the class with the prayers. Om Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parbrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Bho Bhavaswaha, Tatsavitra Varenayam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhiyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Asto ma satgamya, tamso ma jyotirgamya, mrityor ma amritam gamya. Om sehna bhavatu, sehna bhunaktu, seviryam karvavahi, tejasvi navadhitamastu, ma vidvishavahi. Om shanti 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 om. So in this class, these days we are studying Bhaj Govindam by Adi Shankaracharya ji. And we ended our last class with verse number 19, where he said, let one revel in yoga, or let him revel in bhoga, let one seek enjoyment in company, or let him revel in solitude away from the crowd. He whose mind revels in Brahma, he enjoys. Okay. So that means no matter where that person is, if his mind is reveling in Brahma, he enjoys. And then to emphasize this further, he says, verily, he alone enjoys. Okay? So that means you could be thinking that you are doing yoga, or you have renounced everything. But if in your mind, there's no Brahman in there, you're not connected with God, you're not really enjoying. Okay? So, effect of all those practices should be connection with the Brahman. That's what reveling in Brahman means. No matter what we are doing. So let's look at verse number 20. Bhagavad.h kiJNchidadhiitaa gaNgaa jalalava kaNikaapiitaa sakRidapi yena muraari samarchaa kriyate tasya yamena charchaa. Bhagavad Gita, we are all familiar with this term, the Bhagavad Gita. Kinchit, ever, or even a little bit. Adhita has studied. gaNgaa jalalava kanika, a drop of Ganges water. gaNgaa jal. Pita has sipped. sakRidapi, at least once. Yena, by whom? Murari samarchaa, worship of Lord Murari. Okay, that's Lord Krishna, the enemy of the Mura. Kriyate is done. Yamena, with Yama, the Lord of death. Na means never. Charchaa, discussion. To one who has studied the Bhagavad Gita, even a little, who has sipped at least a drop of gaNgaa water, who has worshipped at least once Lord Murari, to him there is no discussion with the Yama, the Lord of death. So he has mentioned 3 divine exercises for spiritual unfoldment. The study of the Bhagavad Gita, dipping in or sipping a gaNgaa water, and worship of Murari. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we say that is the essence of all the Upanishads. In fact, all the 18 chapters themselves are Upanishads also, which goes through the intellectual discipline for us. And this discipline is about the secret essence of life. What exactly is the goal of life? What are the methods by which this goal can be attained? So this particular Acharya is saying, even if you have studied a little bit, you'll get something out of it. And we all have studied and are studying, and we can see the importance of this particular exercise, studying of Bhagavad Gita. Let's look at the second exercise, divine exercise, which he is mentioning. What is this gaNgaa, which he is mentioning? gaNgaa stands for spiritual knowledge. For Hindus, the eternal river of the knowledge of the self it is flowing from the heaven into the head and the jatas of Lord Shiva. And from there, it is flowing to us. From up above, coming down and slowly being distributed towards us. Sure, there's a historical progress of bringing the gaNgaa down also, about King Bhagirath and all that, which we studied in Ramayana. But when we talk about the spiritual knowledge, this is what really means. Flowing from teacher to the taught in an unbroken perennial stream. That's why Lord Shiva is considered the gurus of the gurus. So to sip a drop of the spiritual flow is to enjoy the serenity and fullness of the inner kingdom. Because often people say, what is the sacred thing about that water over there? But definitely there's a symbolism. So as a symbolism, we should understand. Because what is there in a national flag? But a piece of cloth and few colors, whether they're painted or embroidered, or some figures on it. So the same way, the Mother gaNgaa is sacred for us. There's a symbolism. It signifies the spiritual wisdom and the flow of it along the teacher to the taught in an unbroken stream. In old times, or even now, you will see there are a lot of ashrams in Haridwar. And the disciples used to go there to meet their guru or be at the feet of those saintly people, learn something from them and serve them also. Detaching from the world and going there, learning something spiritually. That is a dipping in gaNgaa means. But ordinary folks also, they go there, even if they don't have a guru or they don't have this kind of a wisdom, they go there, worship it. So the ritualism itself has the effect on our mind. I remember a few years ago, I went there, and in the evening, that thousands and thousands of people, when they are worshipping gaNgaa Mata in that evening arti, something happens to you internally. So it's not just worshipping the water, but worshipping with this essence in there. That wisdom which is coming down in the form of the water, we see from the heaven to the Lord Shiva and down for the people like us. There's a great consolation in there. There is a very wondrous achievement, very consoling action, or it could be a very purifying religious pilgrimage. But we got to go with that kind of a mind. That we are going there, taking a dip in that water. But to the seeker of the highest knowledge, who walks the path of knowledge, it's definitely more than the idol. there is an ideal representing in that idol. So idol is Ganga water, but there's an ideal behind it, which is very important. So in this context of the stanza, this particular verse, he says, who has sipped at least a drop of Ganges water? That should mean that those who have at least had a glimpse of the infinite. So it's not a physical water, but seeing the infinite in that finite. And the higher possibility of the divine way of living. So bringing back something also when we go there, and then there should be some kind of a churning, some kind of a change in our living also. From there, this tradition of we'll go to Ganges and we'll give up something. The tradition started giving up of certain flaw in us. That Mother Ganga has washed that away, and then we just come back purer. So in the study of Gita gives an intellectual and objective picture of the goal, and sipping from the hollow of our palm or dipping in the Ganga water, it gives a devotee the flicker of a joyous vision of the distant goal. Sure, goal is distant, but at least we are doing something to move little bit closer to that goal. It could be just a very small, minuscule, but still if the movement is there, one day we'll reach there. So there's a hope. Confidence comes from that. That harbor is not too far. And we got to just make a dash towards it. So when a sip of that water, see, some people bring that water home also. That's a tradition too. But it's not just a water. It is a hope which will purify us. And the third thing he's saying, worship of Murari. This is a worship is like an anchor for our mind with the help of worshiping. And Mur is a Sanskrit term for ego. So there was a Mur Rakshas also, which Lord Krishna conquered. But our Mur is our ego. We need to kill it. Unless we get rid of this demon in us, this ego, there's no hope of entering the harbor of truth, the glorious, immaculate peace. We got to let go of this ego. We got to kill this ego, annihilate this ego. The body consciousness, that I am this beautiful body, or the ego sense, this is all arising from a false identification with the matter. You can call it a non-self also. In Vivek Chudamani, Shankaracharya ji called this anatma. See, there's an atma and there's an anatma. So we got to get rid of it, identification with the anatma. And it can happen when we devotedly worship and pray at the altar of the very destroyer of the ego, who is called Murari. Okay, so we got to learn how to surrender. Instead of cultivating and strengthening the love for non-self, we got to cultivate the love for that kind of a devotion at the feet of Lord Murari. Okay, that's what he's saying. So withdrawing the mind from all other preoccupations and surcharging it constantly with the memory of the goal, which is our Atma. That is the only method by which this Acharya is telling us that we can do. In Bhagavad Gita, second chapter we just finished recently. Go back to that. It's good to go back to these verses again and again to draw the deep message and remember this. Verse number 20. Lord Krishna says, Ajo nitya shashvato ayam puranaha na hanyate hanyamane sharire. So when we go back to these verses, we are strengthening our understanding who we are. Who we are. We are not the body. We are the Atma, which cannot be killed. Atma cannot be killed, and Atma cannot kill anybody. But it is in that sharir right now. Na hanyate hanyamane. A seeker who has accomplished all these three: study of the scripture, glimpsing the goal, and striving to reach it. So with these three, we are achieving these three. To him, there's no more any fear of death. That's what he means over here when he says no discussion with Yama. Okay? So don't try to connect it with that Thursday's Kathopanishad, that Nachiketa is having a discussion with Yama. That discussion is, he goes there to find a guru in him. That discussion is different. Over here, this discussion which is talking about just coming and going again and again, visiting Yamaraj in that sense. So he is no more questioned by Lord Death, nor does the seeker care any longer to question about the phenomena of death, because has attained, has gone beyond the change. Okay? And another verse in the same chapter 24, this infinite existence alone is true. He says, Nitya sarvagata asthano achloho ayam sanatana. Okay, during our meditation, we should try to understand that what is that achal, what is that sthano in me. Body is not, but Atma is. Okay? So then we won't have any question with the Nachiketa, the Yamaraj, okay, the Lord of Death. So this verse is recited by Anandagiri. Okay. So kurute tasya yamo api na charchaa. Not even death dares to question. Okay. So remember these three things, and we are doing it. We are studying the scriptures. We are trying to get more and more knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and we do the worship also, worship of God, but we got to do more diligently. We got to keep the ultimate goal in mind also. Okay. So when we have the goal in mind, then we stay on the path firmly. Okay. There is no more shakiness, no more off and on in this practice. Okay. So now next one. Last time when we were studying this was this became a very popular verse actually among us, and we used to just talk about it because it just goes very musically also. So that's why. So you will see that, and right after I say it, I would like Poonam to recite this, sing this. Normally Poonam sings towards the end, but Poonam, if you don't mind, let me read it, and then if you can just sing it, so that everybody can feel the vibrations about this verse also. punarapi jananaM, punarapi maraNaM, punarapi jananii jathare shayanam, ih sansare nahu dustare, apaare kRipayaa.apaare murari. So punarapi, once again. So it's a punah and api. But when you do the sandhi, it becomes a punarapi. Okay, so this is like how the Sanskrit language is. There's a sandhi and sandhi viched. When you read it, then you read it with a sandhi viched. You break it down. But when you sing it with a sandhi, punarapi. It's a punaha api. Jananam, birth, puna api, once again. maraNaM, death, puna api, and again. Jananii jatre, in the mother's womb. Shayanam, lying. Here. Sansare, in this sansar, in this process of coming and going. Bahudustare, which is very hard to cross over. Apaare, which has no end. kRipayaa, through your infinite kindness, kripa. Pahi, save. Murari, O destroyer of Rakshas. Murari. Okay, so Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. Let's hear it from Poonam. She's gonna sing it so beautifully, you'll be mesmerized.
Thank you, Archie. All right. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maraNaM. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maraNaM. Punarapi jananii jatare shayayam. Ihi sansare bahudustare. Ihi sansare bahudustare. kRipayaa.apaare pahi murari. kRipayaa.apaare pahi murari. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Poonam. See, I told you. It's pretty mesmerizing, isn't it? And this has been the story of, so you can say it, autobiography of all of us. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maraNaM. And it's up to us. Do we want to end this cycle or do we want to continue? Keep on coming into the womb of our mothers. And we don't know which mother. Sometimes we think the same mother will get. We don't know. We don't know which mother. And we don't know whether it's a human mother or non-human mother. Okay. So again birth, again death, and again lying in a mother's womb. This sansar process is very hard to cross over. So if we think that on our own we can cross this, we cannot. That's what he's saying. It's not impossible. It's hard by ourselves. Then he says, save me, Murari. Through your infinite kindness, with your kripa, I can cross it. With my own effort, I can't. This is what this Acharya is saying. Okay, realizing that wheel of birth and death is never at rest for the jiva. Why? Because this birth and death keeps on happening because of our desires, our vasanas. We come here realizing that I got to purge these vasanas, but instead of purging the old vasanas, we even add more to these vasanas. All this extrovertedness in us compels us to get ourselves attached to the objects. Non-us. Sure, it's beautiful. The objects are beautiful, they are very charming. But this is a Maya at work. And we get entangled in this Maya. So in each lifetime, instead of exhausting the existing desires, the vasanas, we all keep on gathering more and more set of new vasanas. This is what this verse is telling us, punarapi, jananaM, punarapi, maraNaM. In Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna called these vasanas are sahaj vasanas in 18th chapter. So it's like a crisscross of all these vasanas, which is made up of the world of objects, beings, for all of us. To live up to the sahaj vasanas and to exhaust them through actions undertaken with ego, this is called egocentric desires, aham and mam. We can exhaust them only with the help of God and the Guru. If we think I can do it, we are even strengthening them more. So let your actions, Lord Krishna taught us in Bhagavad Gita, let your actions be an attitude of dedication. He said, Mai sanyasaha. He says all your actions should be with an idea to serve Lok Sangraha. And he said, all your actions should be in the spirit of yajna, yajna bhava. These are the terms he used. I would like you to go back and study and restudy. He's not saying that don't do the actions, but he's telling us how to do the actions so you can purge the vasanas. The sahaj vasanas which we are all born with. So these existing vasanas, we need to reduce. And the minute we reduce these existing vasanas, what happens? Thought disturbances calm down. So calmer mind, we all want calmer mind. Because calmer mind can understand even the spiritual knowledge. If mind is not calm, we cannot understand it. They say even if Brahma comes over here and teach the Upanishads to us, we won't be able to understand if our mind is not calm. And calming of the mind happens when the vasanas are reduced. Okay, they even call it, it's like a mystic depth of a mind and intellect. Only then we can experience the infinite spirit. So when there's no vasanas, no thoughts in that person. So no subtle body in that person to claim a new embodiment, to function in any kind of a new environment. So the causes for all the repeated births have totally ceased. Because we all know that how painful the birth is. And we all have heard and read how excruciating the death can be. And then again coming back to some womb, feeling so helpless. Do we really want to go through that again? Got to think about it. There has been we have been falling, and there's a momentum in this falling. So we got to halt this fall. Ego is the one which is making us fall. And the ego born out of me has now become a mighty power, ruling over me relentlessly. And this ego is called Mur. So that's why he is suggesting that only Murari can help us. Take a shelter at the feet of God. And pray to God, please free me. from this great inner tyrant. There's no Rakshas outside, but this is my own creation. I have created this Rakshas inside me. We think it's a mighty friend, but it's a very mighty and powerful enemy. It says, "O destroyer of Mur, Lord Krishna, save me, help me, please." So this is an ardent prayer unto him. Seeking his feet of love is the only way out. Surrendering to the worldly objects and worldly people, that's a weakness. Surrendering at the feet of the God and the Guru is a mighty powerful. It's not a weakness. In our own ignorance, we don't mind surrendering to the objects and the objective world. But we think that no, we don't need to surrender God or the Guru. So when we study something like this, we got to keep this in mind. We need to have a faith in God. And God is always ready to hold us, to save us. Even though sometimes we think that we don't deserve to be saved. We think we are tired, beaten, completely exhausted, hopeless situation. But the minute we just surrender to God, God is there to embrace us. So that's why we need to surrender ourselves to his grace. Ask him, please help us. He is a ocean of kripa. Kripa means grace. Ocean of kindness, ocean of love. And he is the destroyer of demon Murari. In his kindness, he will take pity on us. And he will destroy this enemy for us. So now let's look at the next verse. Number 22. Rathyaha charpat virachitih kantha punye apunye vivarjit pantha yogi yog niyojit chitah ramte balvat ev unmat vat ev. Rathya means the road. Charpat, pieces of old cloth, like rags, discarded pieces of clothing. Virachit, made of. Kantha, a shawl. Okay, it's also called a godali, this kind of a shawl. Okay, it's like you just pick up whatever is there on the side of the road and sew it together, just to make it something to cover your body. So a shawl made up of pieces of cloth rejected by others, picked up from the streets and stitched together. That's called kantha. Okay. Punye, married, apunye, demarried. Vivarjit pantha. So together this punya, apunya, vivarjit pantha. Who walks, pantha is who walks the path that is beyond merit and demerit. Okay. Yogi, the sage, yog niyojit chitta, whose mind is joined in perfect yoga. Ramte, supports, lives thereafter. Balvat ev, as a child, balvat. Unmat ev, unmatvat ev, as a madman, unmat, crazy person. The yogi who wears but a godali shawl, who walks the path that is beyond merit and demerit, whose mind is joined in perfect yoga with its goal. He revels in God consciousness, that's what it means, revels, and lives thereafter as a child or as a madman. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam. So what he's saying, a person, a man of realization, after achieving the goal, and after liquidating his individuality, the ego sense, aham bhav, or his personal proprietorship, the mama, over his body, he acts as a child, balvat, or as a madman. Or in other scriptures, they even say pishachvat, as a ghost. So again, no attachment, no identification with the body, let alone anything other than the body. So these examples are given to express or to just give us a little hint of the mental attitude of this kind of a person. He's not a child. He's not a madman. He's not a ghost, but yet he is like them. So he got the qualities of these in him. What do we find in children? Balvat. If a child is mad at somebody or fights with somebody, after a few minutes will start playing with the same friend again. Will not carry over the grudges. Is living in the moment. What is happening here? That is it. No more concern on the next moment and no more concern about the past moment. So right in the present. That's what we see. Children are always found to be fully engrossed with their immediate mental mood. They don't like to drag the past into the present and color the present happenings with the dead past. As we keep on growing older, what do? We remember 10 years ago, who said what to us? Keep on dragging, keep on dragging. So a man of perfection lives from moment to moment, lives fully, entirely in the present. He carries no regrets from the past, nor has he any anxiety for the future. That's what it really means by this Balvat. And madman. Ordinary folks cannot understand the madman. They think he's demented, but he's reveling inside him in his own thoughts. So man of perfection moves among us with his inner experiences, which are too deep and too strange for us to even gauge or to understand. So we call him mad. I'm sure Mirabai was called mad. A lot of other saintly people, they were called mad. But they were reveling in their own infinite experiences. So these people, they look like us sometimes. They walk the way we do. But they are reveling in Brahma. Not in the reveling like us. We revel in the likes and the dislikes. We revel in the ego. We revel in the vanities. We revel in the joys and the sorrows of this objective world. They revel in Brahma. Peaceful state. That's why the Sanskrit word for this is Samya Avastha. The great equanimity. So in his inner life walks the path which is beyond both merit and demerit, because we are constantly worried about which is pap and which is punya. Okay, they have gone beyond that. In fact, not even the Vedas prescribe and prohibit the actions of such people, which are called Mahapurush. Upanishad exclaims, for one who is moving above the three gunas, tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic, a person who has gone beyond it, Upanishad says, where is a prescription and where is a prohibition? Because all these rules, regulations are our dealing with this world, with the nature. They have gone above that. Fearlessly, this person moves. Sometimes alone in the lonely jungles, in quiet plains, day and by night also. Fearlessly. Others are even afraid of him. That's why he's called Pishachvat sometimes, like a ghost. But the ghost is afraid of none, even though all fear it. Such a man of perfection, his mind totally plucked away from its usual fields of passion and lust, has reached perfect yoga. That's what he's telling us over here. Perfect yoga. He says, yogi, yog niyojit chitta, ramate balvat eva unmatvat eva. But even he knows this body. I am still in this body. So that's why this great Acharya is telling us this perfect man allows his body a minimum of protection. And this is indicated by this godali, the shal, the kantha. In society, everyone has duties. Duties go hand in hand with rights. If you are to enjoy the privileges in a nation as a citizen under its constitution, you have also definite duties towards the community in which you are living. It's almost like if you want to use the road, you better follow the road rules also. So there's a right and then there's a responsibility also. But this true sage, this yogi, according to what scriptures, only serves day in and day out without relaxation, with total sincerity, total diligence. See, just like a selfish man will work and help for personal gain in the society, these people, these sages, they don't take anything from the world. They take only minimum. This is what this kantha means. They take so minimum, barest need, but all they do is give, give, and give. So this is indicated by this traditional uniform of the sages, kantha. Or they live in the jungles, they'll find the wild berries, roots and the leaves. They shelter under the trees. Sometimes even the cremation grounds, they keep for themselves only. What do you see? A kamandalu in their hand and a little cover to cover their privates. That's all. Okay. So the attitude of taking from life the least, but giving back to life the most is hinted in these verses over here from these great acharyas. That's who the Mahatmas are. That's why these Mahatmas, they earned the respect and the reverence. Even today we show it to them. We never met them, But we see what they have given to us. What did we give to Shankaracharya ji? What did we give to Rishi Vyas or Rishi Valmiki? And they have given so much back to us. So all these ideas are indicated in these verses over here. That God man or a sannyasi or a sadhu or a yogi, whatever you want to call them, they live among us with the basic, just minimum. And this is what this patchwork quilt is, just an analogy over here with the patchwork quilt or the kantha or godali. And what a contrast. See, they said, I want minimum, I want to give maximum. Today's what do they teach? What do we learn? Give a minimum, get maximum. Opposite of that. But we got to remember, as my Guruji used to say, हम ऋषियों की संतान हैं. ऋषियों की संतान. We got that kind of a genes in us. See, wherever we can make the maximum effort towards our duties. Whatever we need to do that with the maximum effort. Okay? With nothing seeking for yourself. Okay, so this modern philosophy and this Rishi's philosophy, the difference is day and night. Day and night. So its choice is ours. Do we want to just follow the modern philosophy of minimum giving and maximum taking, or we want to live like these rishis? Then we won't come back again and again over here in this. So let's stop it here. And because I would like Poonam to recite all these 4 verses for us, and then we can go through the questions also. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avasheshyate. Om Shanti 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 Om. Okay, Poonam.
Namaste, Hersh.
Namaste, Poonam. Thank you.
Verse number 20 is the one with Bhagavad Gita. I'm going to start there. Bhagavad Gita kiNchidadhiitaa. Bhagavad Gita kiNchidadhiitaa. gaNgaa jalalava kaNikaapiitaa. sakRidapi yena muraari samarchaa. sakRidapi yena muraari samarchaa. kriyate tasya yamena charchaa. kriyate tasya yamena charchaa. Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Bhaj Govindam, Govindam Bhaj Mudhamate. Punarapi jananaM, punarapi maraNaM. Punarapi jananaM, punarapi maraNaM. Punarapi jananii jathare shayanam. Ihi sansare bodhustare. Ihi sansare bodhustare. kRipayaa.apaare पाहि मुरारी, कृपया पारे पाहि मुरारी। भज गोविंदम भज गोविंदम भज गोविंदम भज गोविंदम गोविंदम भज मूढ़मते। रथ्याचरपट विरचत स्कंथा, रथ्याचरपट विरचित कंताः, पुण्या पुण्य विवर्जित पंथा, पुण्या पुण्य विवर्जित पंताः। योगी योग नियोजित चेतो, योगी योग नियोजित चेतो, रमते बालों मतवा देवा, रमते बालों मतवा देवा। भज गोविंदम भज गोविंदम भज गोविंदम भज गोविंदम गोविंदम भज मूढ़मते। Thank you.
Thank you very much, Poonam. Beautiful. Beautiful.